My name is Hilary Dagg, and in February of 2013, I was 20 years old, and I went to a house party with some friends. It was a completely normal night. Nothing about it felt dangerous. We didn't need to drive anywhere. All we had to do was walk home. And one small decision that night changed the rest of my life. By the next morning, I was in the hospital after being found with a core body temperature of 27 degrees Celsius, a severe frostbite, and doctors preparing my family for the possibility that I might not survive. So at the time, I was in my final semester of college. My plan was to become a police officer. And one night I was back home visiting my friends when someone texted me saying another friend was having people over. So we were excited because it was just in town, so no one had to drive anywhere. The houses were only a few blocks away, so everyone could just walk. It was a party in the shed with about 20 of us. I had about 4 to 5 drinks. Around 1 or 2 in the morning, a few of us started walking home. So that night, it was about minus 15 degrees out. I was wearing my jacket and my sneakers. I was walking with my friends. We were all headed in the same direction. At some point, some of my guy friends started clowning around, and so I fell back, not really wanting to get involved. And this caused me to fall a little behind, and they ended up getting ahead of me. So to try to catch up, I decided to take a shortcut. So the shortcut was across a salt packaging yard that actually backed in onto my friend's backyard. And this was a shortcut we've taken many times before. There were large piles of salt wrapped in plastic, and they were stacked together, and they honestly kind of looked like giant hay bales. People had cut across them before, so it didn't seem like a big deal at the time. So I climbed up and began to run across. There was snow on plastic. When I stepped on it and started to run, I ended up slipping. I fell directly into the space where 4 of those piles came together. My arm and shoulder were pinned, and my feet were twisted upward above me. I first tried pushing myself out with my free left arm, but something felt like it was holding me in place behind my back. So I started to kick my feet to try to get loose. But the only thing that ended up doing was kicking off my shoes and then eventually my socks. So when I look back on this decision, I probably wouldn't have climbed on top of those piles if I'd stopped to really think through how slippery they were and what could really happen if I fell. But alcohol affects how we think and how we judge risk. It can make situations feel safer than they really are. But at the time, it felt like a quick shortcut to catch up with my friends was the quickest option, though my memory is clouded. From the point of being stuck, my memory started to fade in and out. I remember at one point my phone was ringing, but it was in the pocket of the side that I was pinned on, so I wasn't able to reach it. I kept trying to kick my feet to free myself, and then eventually I passed out. The next thing I remember is waking up and seeing daylight. I knew that wasn't good, but I was already so cold and disoriented that I just went back to sleep. The next thing I remember was hearing my friend's mom's voice somewhere in the distance. Then everything went black again. My next memory was waking up in the hospital. So when I first arrived at the hospital, my core body temperature was 27 degrees Celsius. For context, a normal body temperature is about 37 degrees. Only about 1% of people survive that low of a core body temperature. So I had severe hypothermia, and I was immediately placed in the ICU because the doctors believed that my kidneys or my heart would fail. I spent 5 days in intensive care while the doctors worked to stabilize my organs. Luckily, my kidneys and my heart eventually recovered, but the next major problem was my feet. Because I had been outside for so long in the extreme cold, I had severe frostbite. Doctors initially believed my left leg would need to be amputated below the knee, but after reassessing, they were able to save part of my foot instead. So over the next several weeks, I went through multiple surgeries and skin grafts. I lost all my toes on my right foot and about half of my left foot. Recovery was slow. 8 weeks after that night, because I had been in bed for so long, I couldn't even stand up at first. Doctors had to start placing me on something called a tilt table. So this slowly lifts your body from a lying down position to standing. The first time I tried it, I lasted about 10 seconds. Eventually, I started to learn to stand again using braces and a walker. Parts of my feet that I used to balance with were now gone, so I had to relearn how to walk. When I finally left the hospital, I moved into my sister's house, and she learned how to do my wound care and physiotherapy so she could help me recover. Even basic things like bathing took hours every day. So before the accident, my plan was always to become a police officer, but after my injuries, that career was no longer possible. Even if I was able to get a prosthetic that can help me run, the skin grafts and the scar tissue on my feet were too weak to handle it. I was able to learn how to walk without any devices or anything on my feet, but I do wear a prosthetic in my left foot. For a long time, I didn't know what direction my life would take. Eventually, I returned to school and I had to change my career path. So today I have a master's degree in neuroscience and I work in the health and social services field. My work now focuses on helping people navigate complex challenges and supporting safer communities. The biggest thing I hope people take away from my story is how quickly a situation can change. Nothing about that night felt particularly dangerous. It was just a small party with some drinks, a walk home, and a shortcut that seemed harmless. But small decisions can sometimes have very big consequences. I also hope people remember to look out for each other. If you go out with your friends, make sure everyone gets home safely. Check in with each other, share your location, have someone waiting for you when you get home, and we'll check if you're not. And if something feels wrong or someone is missing, ask for help. You won't get in trouble for trying to keep someone safe. Sometimes the simplest decision, like staying together, can make all the difference.